Good evening. Welcome to Karl Marx Does the Washing app,
where we ponder ludicrous metaphysical nonsense in the time it takes to make 5 Tesco's basic micro meals.
which is around 21 minutes.
Yes, indeed. Yeah.
I'm Shy Telly.
Oh, and I'm Ilyas and Shy.
And today, actually, we're both lavishly dressed. So maybe we should talk about fashion.
That's what you call lavish?
Well, this is my point exactly. We both have different opinions on fashion.
Do we?
Yeah.
I thought we were both in agreement that I dress well and you don't.
Yeah, but then I'm in... Okay, fine, I agree with that. But I don't let my fashion define who I am as a person. Do you think fashion defines who you are as a person? Do you think you look good because of the clothes that you wear, or you make the clothes look good?
And make the clothes look... Well, a guy told me that he had this rule about pizzas.
About pizzas?
Yeah, last night.
Okay.
I went for dinner with this, very Italian man.
Yeah.
And he was saying, the rule about pizza is that when you put a topping on a pizza, the topping has to add to the pizza. The pizza cannot add to the topping.
Oh, so you're the pizza in this analogy and the clothing is the topping.
Come on, Shy. Why would my analogy reflect the point I was trying to make?
Sorry, that's a completely different discussion.
Yeah, I was just talking about pizzas.
Yeah, okay, fine.
No,
So while we're having this discussion, I was at dinner yesterday and I was like, should we get some wine? And the guy's like, yeah. I'm like, cool, red or white? And he looks at me and he goes, there's only one wine. And I'm like, what? Red or white? And he's like, there's only one wine. And he was like, red. He's like, white wine is just water.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought he meant there was only one wine on the menu.
No.
But there was a wine list with 7 pages, but one wine.
But there's only one wine. Yeah. That's something we would do.
Yeah, that's what we would do. Yeah.
But he was also very fashionably dressed.
Yeah.
So maybe your fashion sense does define your taste.
Your taste, but doesn't... your fashion sense defines your taste, but what defines your taste?
Your fashion sense.
Sense.
Yeah.
Right? Or fashion itself. Fashion defines our taste.
Yeah, fashion defines our taste.
Yeah.
So our actual taste.
Culture, our actual taste and our unactual taste.
Yeah, exactly.
I think there's some fashion's this subconscious force that that penetrates our minds and then just governs us to do things in a certain way.
How so? So what's an example of this?
Well,
and I don't mean a generic example of where we judge people on how they dress, like a man in a suit, for example.
No,
but on a deeper level.
Yeah, I'm talking about political views or something, which
there
seem to be certain narratives or ideas that circulate around certain socioeconomic spheres, and then they morph into something else, right? And I don't always think that's necessarily addressing an issue at the time. It's just certain issues become more fashionable, and we clothe ourselves in our ideologies.
Yeah, and there's a lot of issues at the moment that are very fashionable that weren't in vogue 6 or 7 years ago.
Yeah, but they were still issues.
They were still issues, exactly. So what changes? Or is fashion a good microcosm for the world, right? We were saying how everything's in a constant state of flux. Is fashion the ultimate embodiment of that?
Yeah, that's interesting. Is it? Yeah, maybe.
Because what's relevant now may not be relevant 2 years from now or 3 years from now.
Yeah, I think that's definitely... Well, I mean, everything that manifests is an embodiment of the constant state of flux.
Everything.
Right.
Yeah,
well, everything is.
Yeah,
if that's how we consider the universe to be,
then everything. Yeah, okay.
Everything is that. But I think fashion is something which is quite apparently that, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a glass is not apparently that.
Yeah. Okay, that's true.
Right.
Yeah, maybe fashion does exist in that sphere.
But I think it's also. I think what's kind of cool and crazy about fashion is that it's this energetic movement that we don't really know how it will behave.
How to control it, or how it will behave? Or when you say behave, do you mean how we react to it?
I think it controls us
more than we control it.
I mean, we feed into it, like most things. We're a product and a source of something.
Yeah.
Right. And so we feed into fashion, but fashion itself, it's kind of like how AI, for example, right?
Yeah.
So we're creating AI, right?
Yeah.
And then it will start to this thing that everybody's worried about, singularity,
when it can create itself,
when it creates itself, but it's constantly feeding into it, and then it's playing back what we feed into it to tell us how to behave. right? So like technology's already begun to control us.
Yeah.
But we use technology. The foundation of technology was us finding something.
Yeah. And
enable.
fashion's been around way longer than technology.
Well, I don't know if that's true, because I think technology goes very, like, whether it's a tablet or a cave or something, it's all a form of technology, right?
But then so is fashion.
Yeah. No, but I think... No, I don't know if that's true, because I think fashion is probably... emanates from consciousness. Right?
And you think we didn't have consciousness at the start?
Whereas I think technology doesn't require consciousness.
Technology is just required to make life easier?
No, as in, like, you could take... I don't want to say, like, animals aren't conscious, because that's just nonsense.
Also, that's not a discussion that we need to have.
Yeah.
I don't think it's relevant to this.
No, but I think animals create technologies, right?
Right,
I don't know if they're governed by fashion. So when you see a squirrel, like, creating, a sort of little hub or nest to put the...
that's true.
But it's nuts. That's a form of technology, right?
Okay, yeah.
But I don't know if that's driven by fashion. So I would say technology actually predates fashion.
But then what is fashion? Maybe we should define fashion. Because maybe people would think that we're talking about a myriad of things and we're calling them fashion.
Yeah, and we're really just talking about kaftans.
Yeah, exactly. And ties. Silk ties.
Ties. Do you wear ties?
I wear a tie. I'm trying to bring the tie back.
Yeah, but not... I've never seen you wear a tie.
Exactly, because I haven't bought it back yet. I'm gonna bring it back. I'm gonna bring it back, and then you'll be like,
but also you would never wear a tie in order to bring it back. Right?
You know, exactly. Like, it's the absence of the tie.
You're the anti-fashion, so you wear everything but a tie, and they'll be like,
we got to bring ties back. Yeah, but this is what blows my mind about fashion. We all
tie is also the most pointless thing.
Yeah, but it's so true. It's such a pointless.
But so apparently the tie was meant to be to hold things in. I think.
Really?
No. This is wrong. I think I might have read somewhere, or I dreamt about it, that tie like had a pocket.
Yeah.
And that was to hold things into.
Okay, no.
Because before there were things in, I don't know, pockets in the trousers.
Okay, well, if anyone knows, let us know. So, in terms of fashion, in terms of fashionable things, I read an article recently that says the most fashionable thing that you can take to a dinner party, because when you go to a dinner party, it's implied that you bring something for the host.
Oh, yeah.
The most fashionable thing right now is to take a pineapple. Because a pineapple is something that can be shared, it's high in vitamin C. Apparently a pineapple is quite expensive, so it suggests that you're a man or woman of stature. It's like middle class. And then it can be served at dessert. So, if we think of fashion in that way, that we all follow a social norm, do you think fashion defines who you are?
Do you think fashion defines who you are?
Yeah. Because if you... Say you came to this party, say I was hosting a dinner party and you didn't bring me a pineapple, I'd be like, this guy obviously doesn't
know what he's talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like this guy.
Yeah, but like, this is so hypothetical. I'd never go to a dinner party without a pineapple.
Yes.
It's just very hard for me to engage in this discussion.
You started the fashion statement. You started this fashion.
Well, yeah. Wait, what was the question about the pineapple?
So does fashion define who we are?
Does fashion define who we are?
Yeah, as in, can we define ourselves without fashion?
Yeah. We don't need to define ourselves. There's no reason to define ourselves.
But we are always being defined. Like, everyone is always making judgments, even when they're trying not to make judgments. We make judgments to protect ourselves, right?
Well, I think, like, this idea of identity, or, like, creating a judgment or, like, an idea of who we are, or an image of who we are, is grounded in a rationality, or which feeds into fashion. So the rationality is like against this idea of flux. It's basically about creating statics.
And that your identity is static.
Yeah, or creating like statics, but then we break the static to create a new static, and we break the static to create a new static. But we don't see a fluidity between these statics.
Because there's like moments, right?
Yeah. So then I think that fashion, I think fashion is it's got this like fluid movement, but we ascribe to certain ideas, like the pineapple, and we create some fixed idea about the pineapple, and then that becomes very definitive and, boxing up and, defining who we are.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm just speaking nonsense.
You're just rambling.
But what else do we do in the podcast?
No, I think we do sometimes get to some depth. Sometimes.
But what I think is interesting is that we...
So what I think is interesting is that we have this concept of fashion in that it doesn't define who we are. And yet we're still very selective in the clothes that we wear. And also very selective in the social norms that we follow. Like, what is fashionable, we try and stick to those trends. Like taking a pineapple to dinner.
Yeah. Well, I think it's interesting because there's like... what you're talking about fashion now is about belonging. Like, belonging to something, right?
Yeah.
So you're always like saying, well, like, if everybody else is doing this, we have to do this in order to be fashionable. And I think that is somewhat the consensus, but also the people that we consider to be the most fashionable are the ones who live outside of this.
Yeah, and they don't,
right? But there's a tension, there's a specificness, there's a link to that belongingness. Because if you just go too far out, you're just homeless.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Right? You're just mentally
unstable,
right?
Yeah, but okay,
but if you're like anchored in this, but outside of it,
yeah. So this leads to my actual question: mental health. We consider a lot of people to be unstable, and I think a lot of judgments we make are based on what clothes that they wear.
Yeah. There's like, well, definitely when you see people wearing,
Speedos.
Yes, just speedos in public.
Yeah.
I was going to say like mental asylum jackets.
So one of the key definitions of psychosis is that someone sees a reality that they don't necessarily live in, right? So that
they don't necessarily live in.
Yeah.
They see a reality they don't live in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, or they exist in a reality that they don't necessarily live in. Someone will say that they're the Queen, or someone will say that they're Princess Diana or something, but that means that they would dress like the Queen and or Princess Diana.
But then they do effectively live in it.
Yeah, exactly. And
but other people don't live in the acknowledgement of that.
And that's why I don't think that is psychosis. But we treat that as psychosis. And we give those people strong antipsychotics and strong antidepressants.
Well, maybe it's just an inflammation of how we consider everything. Like, we always behave as people that we aren't, right? But not.
What do you mean?
Well, I think we kind of strut around pretending to be people that, like, deep down we're not. Right?
But is that because a lot of us don't know who we are?
Yeah. And also that who we are is a constant change.
Yeah, exactly.
Changing. But so I think but I think generally this comes back to the balance thing, right? When something is so out of whack, to a degree, it becomes an instability, mental instability or physical instability of some sorts, right? So, but I think the issue is still quite present. Like, the psychosis permeates like the whole of society. Like, we're all like in this collective psychosis, but because there's a synchronicity of this collective psychosis, we don't consider it psychotic. It's only when you live outside of that psychosis, right,
then it becomes an actual issue.
Yeah, and even if you live in the antipsychotic, like against this psychosis, like you have transcended the psychosis, you are also considered psychotic because you don't live within the collective norm.
Yeah,
right.
But then, why is it so important that we live in this collective norm?
So why don't...
Is it simply a case of belonging?
I think that's the only... I don't know if we should do it. I mean, I've never really been so fussed about that.
And I don't think we do live in the collective norm, do we? I think we're definitely on the periphery.
So I think it depends on...
I think we fluctuate though, don't we? Sometimes we inhabit it, sometimes we don't inhabit it.
Yeah. Well, I've always thought that I wasn't really in that kind of collective norm. But then when you come to like London, like recently, last 5 years, and very kind of, globalized, you realize we're pretty normal. There's a lot of like stuff going on.
Having said that, there's like a lot of podcasts out there. Like, we're not doing anything too different in terms of we're not using technology that isn't really being used. We are maybe more normal than we think we are.
Yeah, and like most of our listeners are on this planet.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a shame, really. I don't know if that's just because our marketing's not up to scratch. But
most of our listeners actually have a good relationship with us. They listen to us. They feedback to us. It's quite... Yeah, maybe we are in the collective consciousness, like the collective norm.
Collective norm, yeah. But I think there's there's so many different ideologies that circulate around that govern us to do certain things. And sometimes that might be like us again wanting to go against the collective norm, and something some narrative that we latch onto tells us to go against the collective norm.